What's up, nerds? I'm here with my daughter, Layla. We're gonna go make some fucking copies at Office Depot or wherever the fuck. I don't even know what things are called anymore. But we're gonna go make some copies. And whilst we're making copies, since I have my daughter here, I'm gonna be talking about how people love to have standards for their children, but they don't really understand what their children want to do. Okay, and I'll be the first one to say, hey, I was the one who used to do this. I wanted my kids to go to college. I wanted them, to have these careers and fucking do great things. And that it's because I managed I measured success in a different way. I measured success back in those times when my children were first born by education, job standings, social standing, shit like that. But now I see success in a very different way. Success is more personal happiness to me. So I wouldn't want my son, for example, my oldest son, like I told you guys before, goddamn fishing pro, fishing amateur right now, but he's doing tournaments and he's winning money and he wants to do that shit for the rest of his life. So I am now supporting it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit if my son ever goes to college. I personally don't give a fuck, because if he can start a YouTube channel, create some funds, make his own fucking money, and before he's 18, he's fucking making $500,000 a fucking year, I did it, right? He's successful. That's how I would see it, especially if he's happy doing what the fuck he loves to do. So my daughter, on the other hand, has experienced all kinds of things, and she wants to experience more things. She wants to join soccer, she wants to play sports, she's a fucking athlete, cheerleading, gymnastics, all this stuff. But I don't think she ever stuck with anything. I don't think she ever said, this is what I want to do forever, like my son does. And I think that's because my daughter's more like me, where we're kind of just in the weeds with everything. I know how to do a lot of shit really good, but I'm not a master of anything. And I think that's how my daughter is. She's going to know how to do a lot of things really good, but she won't master any one of them. And that's because we're mastering how to manage other things, especially the human asset, the human resource. And I think now that my daughter is getting to an age where it's going to get more confusing for her, I understand that, but I foresee the future with my children, because all you have to do is manage the patterns, watch the patterns. I see that my daughter is going to be a lot better at managing people, managing emotions, managing her own type of time, skill, things like that, her own assets, into making something bigger than herself. She won't need to be a doctor and go help, people in that way, or a dentist, or there will be no specialized task that Layla does. It'll be more like, okay, I'm gonna open up a plaza where doctors come in and fucking practice their work. We have a dentist over there, we have an orthopedic surgeon, we have this guy, and Layla will own the whole fucking plaza, and motherfuckers will pay her rent. That's what I foresee for my daughter, because that's kind of what I am. Now, I could be wrong, but that's how I see myself. And the only reason I'm saying that for my daughter is because I was like her when I was a kid. Didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do everything, didn't really like everything, was pretty good at anything I did, but not a master at any one thing. And we've heard the saying before, jack of all trades, master of none. But there's a extended part to that saying. The extended part to that saying is, but better than a master of one. And I think that's fucking dope as shit, because we always leave that out whenever we're talking about someone who's not mastering a skill. We always say jack of all trades, master of none, which kind of makes them feel like they're not a master of anything. But being a jack of all trades is better than one guy who knows one specific thing, because that jack of all trades can manage everybody. He knows how to do all those things from the ground up, from the janitor to the CEO. So he's able to run the fucking business. Now, that's something that I'm saying now. Like I said, I could be fucking wrong. But the only reason I'm saying it now is to bring up a point, to not have these high expectations of your kids that you are completely forgetting that you have that your kids have personalities. Your kids have their own personalities. They have their own being. They have their own wants. They got their own desires. And if you don't take that under consideration when you're planning your son, who's fucking hates school, you're planning for him to be a doctor, but he fucking hates school. Well, guess what? 10 years of fucking school for that dude, it's gonna be horrible. He's not gonna fucking like it. All he has to do is fucking read books. Yeah, he's not, but he fucking hates school. So you have to take that under consideration whenever you're, you know, basically portfolioing your fucking kids, because it's, you know, it could blow up in your fucking face. Like, for example, I know my son, Lyric, is not a fucking mathematician. All right, he's never gonna do no astrophysics. I would never ask him to learn that shit. It's not in the cards for him. He doesn't give a shit about it. He's not interested in it. So I wouldn't do it. I would never tell Layla to do things like that, some specific thing, because I already know for Layla, she doesn't want to do that shit. If I'm bringing it up, she might change her mind. They're still young enough to change their mind. But once they change their mind on their own, then I'll just support them. But I'm not gonna sit there and be like, hey, Layla, go be the fucking world's greatest baseball player. She's never picked up a bat. She's fucking 11 years old and she doesn't fucking play baseball. She doesn't have the want to go do that shit. So I'm not gonna make her. You know, we gotta stop pushing our kids to do these expectations and live this self-expectation of our own success. We're trying to make them live it, and it's fucking them up. It's fucking them up, and it's fucking us up. It's fucking our economy up. We're pushing our kids to go to college every fucking year, every June, July. You know, they're excited to go to college to start their new lives, but they don't even know what the fuck they want to do. They're gonna go spend 4 years in college. They're gonna go spend $80,000 on a fucking schooling that they have no clue on what the fuck they even want. So they get a business and a fucking bachelor's in business administration, and it turns out your kid just wants to fucking build furniture, and he's great at it. He loves wood sculpting or some shit. You know, that business administration is fucking wasted. Now, yeah, he could probably use it in the long run, but he could have spent 4 years honing his craft, being the best fucking woodworker, and he wouldn't have to fucking use it later on. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's a whole bunch of fucking things that we do as parents that fuck up our kids, and we think it's for the better for them. Like, I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on. For my daughter, my grandma, or her grandmother, my mom always tells her, doctor, doctor, doctor. But that's because my mom is fucking old and poor. Probably not poor, but she's old, and she fucking struggles every day for money. She's always worried about money. So she thinks doctors are rich and they don't worry about money. But that's not true, because I know doctors who are fucking worried about money. They may not be broke, but they're living out of their fucking means. So in order to not be broke or to not be worried about the next paycheck, you got to teach your kids about economics, not about a good job. Because if you have a fucking guy or girl who gets a great job but doesn't know how to manage fucking money, it doesn't matter what job they have, it doesn't matter how much money they make, they'll be fucking broke all the time, because they do not know how to manage their economics. And that's just, I mean, that shit I should have fucking learned when I was in high school, but I was too busy arguing with the fucking teacher. I like to debate. I like to fucking try to make my ideas known. And I should have just shut the fuck up. If my teacher would have pulled me aside one-on-one and been like, hey, Phil, you know, you're not going to learn shit doing this. You should probably just shut the fuck up and let me say what I have to say, and you could get further, and then you could argue better later on. I probably would have fucking, you know, got through economics a little bit easier. But my teacher was kind of an asshole. Shout out to Mr. Hart, because he was a fucking dick, but he put my feet to the fucking fire, and he made me understand a lot of things before I even knew that I was learning the lesson. But you know, he didn't know me. He only knew me for one semester out of my fucking school year. I mean, out of the 12th grade fucking school year. So he couldn't tell me that. He didn't spend enough time with me. He didn't understand who I was. He didn't give a shit about who I was. He thought that I was in his class. I need to pass his class. He doesn't need me to pass his class. It's up to me. It's my fucking schooling. And he was right. But if he would just adjusted his mind frame a little bit to get to know the kid who was always giving him shit, I probably would have got a better education. You know, it's fucking here nor there, but that's what we're doing with our kids every day. We're thinking that we know them, but we don't. And we're having this success expectation for them that they don't give a shit about. Happened with me, happened with my kids when they were first born, and all these expectations I had. probably happening with you right now with your kid. You know, or if you don't have kids yet, you'll want all these. I see my sister, my little sister, all the time. She has these expectations for her daughter. Harley's what, like 6 or 7 months, Layla? Something like that. She's like 7, 8 months. She's got all these expectations for Harley. Harley may not want to do none of that shit. Harley may be like, bitch, I'm not doing a single thing that you want me to do. I'm gonna fucking want to speak Spanish. I don't even want to learn English. Bitch, teach me Spanish. You don't know what the fuck the kid's gonna want. You're just assuming what it's gonna want. And when you make that assumption, you're gonna make an ass out of yourself. Keep that shit in mind, dude. Like, there's a lot of things that we have expectations for when it comes to our children that never, ever, ever come true. And I know that shit because that shit happened to me as a child. Happens to my brother. I talked to my mom about the expectations that everybody had for everyone else. Even the expectations that they have for themselves when they're growing up, when they're children. Never comes true. Never fucking happens. That's because they have these expectations that are unreal. They're not being real with themselves. They don't understand their patterns. They're not being honest with themselves. And in the end, it winds up fucking them over. You just got to be honest with yourself. When it comes to you, your children, and all the expectations you have, and the success you want, just be honest. As soon as you start lying to yourself, I mean, you start losing.